Hi and welcome to the Pole Shift News, guys. A couple of things we want to talk about. I'm getting better. I'm bullet pointing things I want to talk about in the video, and hopefully we can get it more concise, and in that save wasting time. So I want to talk about the top graph that we're looking at. That's our magnetosphere. I've whipped the SD card out over the last week, and we'll discuss the data in a short while. On the bottom, that's our trimag. That's the one that tracks the heading or the progression of the migrating North Pole every 3 seconds. Going to get back to that in a little bit. A few other things I want to talk about. I want to give us an update on the cloud chamber, where we are with that, so I'll crank up the organic camera a bit later on in the video and I'll show you where we are with that. And I wanted to talk about Henderson and Tesla. Some of you might be interested in what I've got to say about that. Also NASA and the ESA, are we being fair, or are we rightly so to criticise them for withholding data? And that's even if they are withholding the data. And the other thing I wanted to discuss was whether we should put a forum or not on the Pole Shift News website, whether you guys like an open discussion board put up on there, and are you using the website? The other thing I wanted to talk about is, what do you think to us doing once a month, see how that goes, a live update where we can talk about various topics? I mean, I don't mind talking about anything. It doesn't just have to be the magnetic pole shift and some of the things related to that, but anyhow, let's get into it. So this top chart that we're looking at, the graph, you can see it started out at 199.5 microteslas, and as the week progressed, it dipped. And in my view, it dipped considerably to see at some points along the week 1.5 degress in the microteslas, which is a measurement in this case of the magnetosphere. It was what I thought was quite a lot. I'm just interested to see if this is going to be a current trend. If we're losing that every week, then we can sort of like calculate how long's left before we eventually lose 1 gauss. Now, just to give you an idea, when you look at other mainstream magnetometer data, they're measuring in nanoteslas, we're measuring in microteslas, and we're also giving you a lot more of a view over the week as it's gone on, as opposed to just 15 minutes or a couple of hours worth of magnetometer readings. And I think the benefit of what we're doing speaks for itself, because we get to see a change over the period of time. Whereas if you're looking at these hourly charts that record every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes or every 15 minutes, you don't see the archive in all its true form of glory. And we can see that over this at least 7-day period of looking at the magnetosphere strength, it has dropped and not come back up to its original starting point. So I'm just wondering whether this is a current trend. The only way we're going to find out is by continuing to monitor it and record the data. The reason why I pulled the SD card after 7 days was because I was just curious as to what was going on, and I thought I'd whip out the SD card on the trimag station. And we are having some problems. I'm not quite sure what the cause is now, because last month we lost a month's worth of data, not just on the magnetosphere, but also on the trimag. This month, if I hadn't checked the trimag, as I did with this after about 7 days, we would have lost more trimag data. And I can't figure out why we're losing the data on this. I know we do have a bad track on 3, magnetometer 3, and I'm not going to bother repairing it. I'm just going to replace the breakout board, put a new SD card on there, and reprogram the board ready to go. And we're even going to replace the magnetometer on the end there, and we'll recalibrate it at what the last reading was for track 3. So, like I say, I don't know what's going on there, because we didn't lose the data at all on the magnetosphere sensor, but we did lose, after 6 days, data from then on the trimag. So this outrules power cuts from the utility company. I just don't know what's going on, guys, is the truthful answer. Why we lost power on one and not the other sensor this time is baffling me. So I think the only thing we can do is trial and error. We can try over the next coming weeks, if we can raise some money, we'll try and battery back up the system. And I don't think we need to go over to solar power. I think battery enough is going to do it, because if we do have power outages, even in this country, in this day and age, they're not for a great period of time. So I'll leave it there. At least we can see the deviation over the week with the magnetosphere. I think looking at the two charts, the trimag and the magnetosphere, there's something far more active happening with the magnetosphere. You can see it going up and down, as opposed to not much of a migration easterly towards Siberia with the trimag. It always has been around the 10 to 11. We are seeing more 11.11s come up when we look at individual data sets, but in order for it to have moved 1 degree in a year, we would have to now be starting to see more 11s come up. And we are, but I'd like it to be in the 11s constantly, even if it was a low 11. At least we would know that we were still migrating. If it is slowing down, then I think it's because the northern hemisphere is slowing down, and therefore it's able to hold on to its magnetic strength in that region. But if what we're seeing with the magnetosphere is a constant depletion, then it's not going to be long before we start to see a wandering pole again over the northern hemisphere. So, I'm glad now that we are recording the magnetosphere strength. I think it would have been a good idea to do the two when we first started a year ago. Remember, it took 2 years development to get the trimag station up and running. Having had the experience of building the trimag, it wasn't too much trouble for me then to program and develop the magnetosphere sensor. I think it came about within a couple of weeks. I just wish we'd have done it back then. But I've got to say, when I just finished the trimag and got it up and running and operational, I was almost sick to the back teeth of putting myself through the process of learning the electronics, and then more so learning the the programming behind it. But there you go. We are where we are, and we are an observatory, albeit at the moment, struggling with a couple of teething problems. But I'm sure we're going to get them sorted out, as the weeks go on. So, the other thing is, let's get into this update then on the cloud chamber. That's the other thing we're developing at the moment. So let's go and have a look at that. I'll get the organic camera out, and I can show you where we are with that. We're looking at the cloud chamber development. One thing you'll notice is that it's not so bulky anymore in this region. That is because we've changed the configuration of the fans. We had, first of all, just one fan on the back of the heatsink with heat block. Then we changed it for one fan at the front, one at the back, and then we've changed it to one just at the front of the heatsink and one below, which is being exhausted at the bottom of the unit altogether. You can see it just comes straight out the bottom. The result at the moment is, even though we've only got one installation layer, is almost the same as what we was getting. Remember, we was getting between 30 and 36 degrees negative, minus 30 degrees, minus 36 I think was the best we achieved. But we've only got one layer on there at the moment, and we're getting minus 26, something like that. It's at minus 25. Hang on a second. Minus 26. What I've found is, room temperature in here, just to give you an idea, the temperature of the desk here, or the bench, is 28 degrees. Wherever you go, it doesn't matter, even on the block that we're going to use eventually for the top of this. We achieve about minus 40 degrees when we switch these Peltiers on. Like I say, we've only got one Peltier covered at the moment in this insulation. We get it a lot better than that. I've changed it. First of all, we went for this foam, spongy foam type. Then we went to the polystyrene that we had, and then we've gone to this wool type of insulation. It's thinner, it's more efficient, and as you can see, with just one Peltier covered with the insulation, we're getting minus 26. So I'm prepared to invest a bit more time
in just messing about with different types of insulation and see how far we get with it, because it would be great if we could just use fans to cool down that internal block in there, as opposed to resorting to liquid. But if it comes to it, you know, so be it. We'll buy the liquid blocks, which means we can extend the area, because at the moment we need to get this top peltier down to about minus 50, 60 in order to cool down that top plate, which fits on the top there, like that. That plate is actually made so that this plastic chamber fits snugly over it, and we need to then, if we can get that plate down inside there at minus 26, that will be sufficient enough for when we put the alcohol in there to evaporate. It will condensate on the bottom, giving us our cloud chamber, and then the only thing we've got to worry about is lighting, which isn't a big problem, because we've pretty much got it all set up ready for the LEDs. This power supply comes with plenty of power takeoffs for voltages of 12, 5 and 3 volts. I mean, this unit is just controlling the speed of the fans, nothing else. I mean, the machine, the PC power supply automatically, reduces the power from 240 volts down to 12 and down to 5 and down to 3 for us, and that's why we've got such a lot of leads. In a PC, there's plenty of things that have to be connected. Graphics cards, you name it, there's just loads. But yeah, that's where we are with this. This is froze to the top of there. It's it's getting there, guys. I'm going to add a few more different layers of insulation on the top there, and we'll see where we get. But like I say, I don't mind investing a bit of time in experimenting with this. It'd be nice if we could just use what we've got. If it's a case of adding some more fans, well, we've got plenty of those now, and different types of fans we can try for better performance, and hopefully eventually we'll get what we want. I mean, if we didn't want to go through this method of what we're using at the moment, we just wanted to use CO2 dried ice, we could do that. But the thing is, let's say we want to just switch it on tomorrow and we haven't planned to. The benefit of this unit is that we can do it at the flick of a switch, whereas if we're using dry ice, we've got to go down to wherever we can locate it, pick it up, bring it back, which is a bit of a pain. I'd like a device which is independent, and that's what we're trying to develop here with this. So slow progression, but still moving forward on this. There you go.
So, Nikola Tesla and Henderson. What's it all about? Well, I watched a documentary on Elon Musk the other day. This is the guy that owned Tesla Motors, the electric cars. He says in this interview, or documentary, that the reason why he called it Tesla's because it used one of Tesla's motors that he designed. He said, but when asked the question, which was his hero out of the two, he said it was Henderson, because Henderson had brought Tesla's inventions to market. In other words, he brought it to the general public in a formula that they could use it, whereas Nikola Tesla didn't do that. He was just an inventor. I was like shocked. I was like, because I like to think of Nikola Tesla as one of my heroes. If out of the two, it would be Nikola Tesla. He was the one who brought the idea, first of all, to the attention of the world. It was Henderson that marketed it and brought it to the people, but Nikola Tesla was the one that designed it and invented it. It was just shocking that Henderson was just the guy who brought it to everybody's attention, give them the product, and Elon Musk's hero was, out of the two, Henderson. This is the world we live in. The people that come up with the ideas are they're not the people that are rewarded, it's the people that exploit the idea that gets rewarded. Some of you might think that's fair, but I've seen it again in another documentary regarding quantum devices, squids. The guy who actually invented the low voltage or low magnetic detector back in the 70s, I think it was. I forget his name, he's a professor anyhow. He was actually given the idea by someone over a cup of coffee. The guy said, why don't you use this steel thread oxide, this particular metal it was. I can't remember which one it was, but use this and then coat it in some of that tin solder and then, super freeze it with nitrogen and see what the results of that are. The bloke said, you know what, it's the craziest idea I've ever heard in my life. He said, but I'm going to try it. And he said if it hadn't have worked, he would never have pursued taking the idea any further than what he did, but it happened to be a success. But the guy wasn't given a Nobel Prize for giving him the idea. It was the guy that actually, again, brought it to market that got the Nobel Prize. It's the world we live in. This is the mentality of people. I had a little run-in with Elon Musk. It didn't really go anywhere. I got dumped very quickly early on in the conversation with regards to a patent that I took out, and it was patent protected or patent pending for about 3 years in the patent office. It was only when the patent expired that Elon Musk took advantage of it and brought it to market in the same way Anderson did with Nikola Tesla's project. But it annoyed me. I mean, I got back in touch with the patent office regarding it, and they said there was very, very little they could do because I'd had my crack of the whip. I'd had 3 years to bring that product to market, and as I wasn't going to progress with the patent, which would have meant me handing over a lot more money at the time to keep the application, was the result in somebody else then taking it from the idea stage to actually bringing it out. I'd passed it around a few banks because it was in that line. It was a top-up credit card, a credit card that anyone could purchase from anywhere, and literally add funds to it so that they could purchase stuff off the internet, regardless of their credit history and things like that. It would be, in the true sense, a credit card because you would have to put credit on it. Well, this was then, brought to market by Elon Musk's company, and they exploited it, and then later on sold the company and made a lot of money. But I'd done my best to try and get it to market. This is just the thing: if you haven't got the money and you don't know how, this is where you're going to fall short. If you've got a great idea, my attitude these days is, if I've got a great idea, just sit on it, because I think the patent office is a suggestions box, which means if you've got a great idea, you can add it to the suggestions box, and if someone doesn't want to give you anything there and then to bring it to market, then all they've got to do is wait until you give up, forking out your own money. And if you've got little resources, then it isn't going to be long before you do give up, and then they're going to exploit it. And not only that, what we've got to be careful of is backdating patents, because you can do a search if you apply a patent on any object that you want, and it'll come back. There's nothing on the market remotely the same. But if someone's got an interest later on down the line, and this product is worth a lot of money, or this invention is worth a lot of money, all they're going to do is backdate the patent. And what I'm saying is the patent system itself is exposed to corruption. And there are people now in this day and age that will take somebody's great idea and give them absolutely nothing back for it. So that's the Tesla and Henderson and Elon Musk story for the day. The other thing I wanted to talk about just briefly is, we keep giving organisations such as NASA and the European Space Agency a bad time because of their reluctance to come out with information. Well, I think one of the reasons they don't come out with information is because what is the point in, let's say, NASA, who's funded by the American taxpayer, freely giving out, the results of their investments? what would be the point in that? Other countries could just exploit, their new findings, and I think that's one of the reasons why things are kept quiet. But I will say this about NASA, is that they are a very leaky organisation. That is, if there is anything of real significance, it usually does find itself outside the organisation. That information does find itself outside the organisation at some point. And the other thing is that we should sometimes give them credit for what they do, because they are a great organisation, and they have over the years suffered massive cutbacks. I mean, they no longer really run a space program in the same sense they did 20 years ago. They've no longer got the space shuttle program, and they don't launch anything significant like the Apollo missions. And moving on from this, guys, I'm going to round the video up here, and I'm just going to say, what is your thoughts on us putting a forum upon the Poleshift News website, and what do you think to perhaps a once a month live video stream on YouTube, where some of you guys can ask some questions maybe that you've got, and we can have a discussion about a few different things. Let me know your thoughts, and if there is something else that you'd like to see on Poleshift News website, and it is a great website, I've got to say that myself, and I think you guys that have visited it would say the same, in that it does have a lot of data related to geoanomalies currently in situ, such as earthquakes, volcanoes, Arctic ice dents. We're covering the migration of the magnetic North Pole over the northern hemisphere towards Siberia, and we're also covering the magnetosphere strength depleting, as we are in, after all, a magnetic pole reversal. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on those two things. Shall we have a forum on the website so that people can communicate with each other, and we can put up some news bulletins here and there on there? And do you think we should have a live debate now and then on YouTube, or at least once a month, and just see where that goes? Regardless, anyhow, guys, let me know your thoughts, and if there is something else you want added to Poleshift News, again, let me know. And I'll round the video up here. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Hope it's a good week planned ahead for you guys. And also, as I always do, just want to remind you that there is a link down there where you can support this. This observatory, as you know, is crowdfunded by you guys. So you guys have got this to where it is now. If you want to continue supporting it, the link's there. Please do. And who knows where this will go? We don't know. We could achieve something really great even from this little platform. But there you go. We'll see how it goes. Guys, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.